that glorious Yamaha triple sound. Oh yeah.
All right, what's going on, guys? Alex here with TFL Bike, and I'm here with the all-new 2021 Yamaha MT-09. A super popular naked sport bike. This is the third generation of it, and Yamaha says that this bike is 90% new when compared to the outgoing second generation model. So in this video, I am going to show you everything that's new on this bike, take it for a ride, let you know what I think of it, and this is all coming from an owner of a 2019 second gen MT-09. Let's get right into it. This CP3 inline 3-cylinder from Yamaha feels and sounds pretty similar to the outgoing engine, but it's actually pretty different. The guys at Yamaha told me only a couple of the bolts holding the engine together are the same, but pretty much all the other components are all new. Displacement was bumped up from 847cc to 890cc. That is due to a 3mm longer piston stroke. You now have 118 horsepower out of this engine versus the 114 out of the outgoing model, and 89 foot-pounds of torque, which is a 6% increase in torque when compared to the outgoing model, which had 85 foot-pounds. They put a new exhaust on this bike. There are dual outlets now, so it's symmetrical. You have one coming out on the right side, another one coming out on the left side, and it does sound a little bit different. It's a little more growly than the outgoing one, but still sounds awesome.
I can't believe how much better this MT-09 corners than mine. Oh my god. There's a QS symbol right here with two arrows. When one of those arrows turns green, it means that the parameters are correct to use the quick shifter. So right now I have an up arrow, and I can bang through the gears without even using the clutch. Same thing on the downshift. It does have an auto down blipping function, and that is super fun to use. Yamaha also put new suspension on this bike. That was always one of my complaints with the old MT-09, was that it was just too soft, and this one definitely feels a little more stiff. But if you are really into premium suspension, this year for 2021, Yamaha brought the SP to the States, so you can get KYB fully adjustable front forks and an Öhlins rear shock with a remote preload adjuster from the factory.
Let's talk about the design a little bit. I think this is a really good looking bike in this paint scheme. It looks really cool with this flat gray tank. I love the color of this blue and orange/red stripe that matches the wheels perfectly. It's a really good look. A lot of people weren't too happy with the front end redesign. People liked the squinty-eyed version of the second gen better, it seemed like, when this first was released on the internet. But I will say this headlight does function a lot better than the outgoing model. That was probably my biggest complaint, besides the suspension on the one I own, was the headlight. It's just unusable at night, and I did ride this at night, and the headlight is much better. And to go along with the new headlight, you also have a new taillight design, which has the Yamaha MT logo in it. The design is really similar to the 2020 model, so you have this really wide tank up top that scallops into the side to hug your knees, and just a really stripped down look to go along with the whole naked sport bike theme. This is an all new frame as well, new swing arm too, and new wheels. The wheels have a new manufacturing process. They're able to make them with less material now. So all in all, this bike weighs 417 pounds wet, which is 8 pounds lighter than the outgoing model. The headstock on this new MT-09 is 30mm lower, which is over an inch. And as a result, the fork tubes have been shortened a little bit. Yamaha says that that improves front end traction, front end grip, and I definitely agree with that. And speaking of the forks, you have a 41mm inverted fork up front. Yamaha did upgrade the suspension on this MT-09. It is stiffer than the outgoing model. These forks are fully adjustable. And in the rear, you have a monoshock that is adjustable for preload. and rebound damping. For brakes, you have dual 298mm discs up front, and you now have a master cylinder taken directly off of the R1. They're definitely not race bike super sport brakes, but they do get you down to a stop when you need to. And then you've got a single 245mm disc in the rear, and this bike does have a pretty advanced ABS system. It has cornering ABS, and we'll get to that in the tech section. Also, part of the redesign are these front air ducts, which were fake on the first and second gen MT-09. They're now actually functional, which is really good to see. Now no one can give you crap about your vents being fake. The key slot for the rear seat is still under the rear fender. You have to pull this little tab back and then put your key in, then pull the seat off. And I wish they would have moved this somewhere to the side of the bike. This is just always really hard to access. You have to get on your hands and knees to really get under there and see where the key position is, because it's hard to do standing up above the bike. So wish they would have changed that.
Yeah, I think this bike handles a lot better than the outgoing MT-09. The first gen and the second gen felt very similar to each other. This feels like a different bike. It just likes to handle. It's not crazy, whereas the old MT-09 was crazy. And this just feels like it actually wants the corner instead of just doing wheelies all the time. First and second gear are also a little bit taller on this bike, just to you know, help getting around town. They're not as crazy as they once were. Also, under really hard acceleration, you don't get that speed wobble. I think that's part of the steering geometry being revised too, but under really hard loads on the old MT-09, the front end loved to dance, and it would almost throw you into a tank slapper, and it's way harder to get the feeling like that here on this MT-09.
All right, let's flip the bike on and take a look at the dash. Key placement is now right up here at the top of the tank. Turn it on, you can see the color TFT display come to life, and this display looks really, really good. It's super sharp, the colors are excellent, it's visible in direct sunlight. I just wish it were a little bigger. This black surround just constantly reminds you that you could have a bigger screen and you don't. You operate this screen using the mode button and this rocker switch on the left side handlebar and the menu scroll wheel on the right side handlebar. So if we go over here on the left, that's how you're gonna control your D mode and your TCS mode. So if you click the mode button in the center, that switches between which one is bigger. So once I'm in D mode, I can switch between 1, 2, 3, and 4. D mode 1 is the most aggressive. Think of that as the A mode on the old MT-09. 2 and 3, you get less aggressive as you go through those, and then 4 actually has a cut in peak powers. So maybe the weather is really, really bad, or you're kind of a new rider and you bought this as your first bike and you don't want a ton of power right off the bat. That's what that D mode 4 is for. Then if you hit mode again, you can switch between TCS mode M, which is manual, 1 or 2. 2 has more intervention, 1 has less intervention. And then over here, using the menu wheel, you can scroll through and change what is visible in these 2 customizable parameters right here. You can also go into the settings function. Let me get down to it. And that is how you're really going to customize the TCS settings. So they are user settable. We have traction control setting, slide control setting, and lift control setting that you can adjust the different modes for. And then backing out of there, you can go down to vehicle setting, and that's where you're gonna control your BC setting and quick shifter setting. So BC is brake control. You have brake control 1, which is the standard ABS system. And if you switch it into BC2, that's gonna give you cornering ABS as well. And then backing out of here, we can go into the quick shift setting, and you can turn on and off the quick shifter for both the up and down position. All this tech is controlled by a 6-axis IMU. It's a very similar unit to what is in the current R1, the one that came out in 2015. Except it's about 50% smaller and lighter than that unit. Just a couple of other changes. The MT-09 has always had Yamaha's chip-controlled throttle, but previously you had throttle cables that came down under the tank to a sensor right down there. Now the sensor is built directly into the grip, just like the R1, so you don't have any throttle cables going down there. Less maintenance you need to worry about. I also wanted to mention that the switchgear has been updated too, and it all feels much more premium. Everything just has a nice solid click to it, including including the turn signal switch, which was really soft and just felt like jello on the old MT-09. This one's much better and has a really solid feel to it, along with all the other mode selectors. Everything just feels way more premium. The riding position is now slightly adjustable. You can move the handlebars just a little bit using these clamps right here, and also the foot pegs are now adjustable, so they're in the low position right now. That's how it comes from the factory, but you pull these two bolts right here, and then you've got two more threaded holes, and that'll move the foot pegs just up and back a little bit.
I'm a big fan of this bike. When it first was announced, I thought, just a styling change. It's cool that they're bringing the SP here. Maybe I would want the SP, but even the standard MT-09 feels like a really good upgrade over the outgoing model. I'm really struggling with this, guys, because as you know, I own a 2019, and I've been thinking maybe I need to trade mine in on this. It feels a lot more solid. Yamaha says that this bike is 50% more rigid. It does have a new frame and swing arm after all.
This new MT-09 is available now for $9,400. The MT-09's always been a really good value in the motorcycle world. That's why I bought one myself. And even with the slight price increase, $400 more than the outgoing model, I still think it's a great value. You get more power and more torque than last year, 6% increase in torque. It's 8 pounds lighter, and it feels way more planted to the road. It handles better, and it just feels more predictable, more stable, more solid. Everything about it feels like a more refined package, and it feels like Yamaha really put some development into this bike and made it really, really solid. I'd really like to ditch my 2019 and get one of these. I'm struggling a little bit because I have a lot of money worth of mods into my 2019, but this is a really good package, so I'll have to think about it a little bit, but it's really enticing. It might end up happening sometime this summer. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to head on over to tflbike.com so you don't miss any stories in the bike world. Catch you in the next one.